The bigger thing I feel like I have to kind of convince people about is that 5-year remodel customer, because it's difficult to hear, but I usually say to people, like, you kind of got to remove yourself from the equation. You're kind of remodeling for the next buyer. I mean, of course, it's 5 years. You still want to enjoy it. But if you love purple cabinets, it's just not the move.
This is Curb Appeal, a podcast for real estate professionals who are looking to build out their business and get more deals done. In each episode, we uncover what is and isn't working when it comes to scaling in the industry. Listen in and get actionable steps to grow your real estate brand, attract more business, and expand your footprint in the industry. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Curb Appeal. My name is Rachel Gombosch, and I am your host. And today we have a really great episode. We are talking with Jenny Rice, the co-owner of Chicago's Icon Building Group. There, Jenny focuses on sales and design for the company's remodeling division, where she and her husband started it from the ground up. So we have an incredible conversation today with Jenny on how real estate professionals can pair up with construction companies and remodeling companies to really excel and put your best foot forward in your business. As always, if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us and share this episode with your team, with other real estate professionals. We're happy to spread this information to everyone throughout the industry. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and get into the episode. So Jenny, I actually want you to start off by opening up with how you got into the construction and remodeling business, because when we first met, I loved your story about how you guys essentially really didn't have, you and your husband really didn't have a lot of background in it.
Kind. That's putting it so kind. A lot of background is the under exaggeration of the century. No. As I think I told you, I came to the marriage with more tools than my husband, and even at that, it was a hammer and a pair of pliers, and that was that. So yeah, our kind of origin story is not typical, at least around here. I assume in most of the country, a lot of builders maybe learned from their dads or were carpenters in their, earlier life or something like that. And it was a natural progression to get into home building, which makes all the sense in the world. Not so for us. So Charlie had another company that was in the service, in the restaurant and service industry, that he had started with some friends from college, and he sold the company. And then he was home, and we had 3 little kids. We had 3 kids in 4 years. And I think our kids were maybe 6, 5, and 3 at the time when he quit his job, it's young to be retired with little kids. And it wasn't a great time. I mean, he struggled with that process a lot, and struggled kind of like with his identity, who he was without this company that he had started. So he coached our son, and he did a lot of kind of self-improvement, kind of spent a lot of time working on himself and everything. And during that coaching period, he met another gentleman that was a luxury home builder. And this gentleman, Steve, was looking for investors in a small infill piece in the Chicago suburbs. And I think Charlie had spent enough time, being home, probably annoyed hanging out with me for too long. So he's like, you know what? I think I'm ready to be your partner, not just an investor.
Right.
So he wanted to get involved. So that was in 2008. So our timing was not spectacular. So they overpaid for this. It was just prior to the crash. They overpaid for this piece of land, again, in the northern Chicago suburbs. And pretty quickly, not only did the economy take a drastic turn, but the 2 partners, Steve and Charlie, while still friends, had just different ideas for where this company was going, where this new company was going. Steve had been in building for years, and I think wanted to keep kind of more of a boutique, specialized, smaller firm. And Charlie's a big thinker. So we took over, we assumed all the debt, because Charlie came to that relationship as kind of the financial arm of that relationship, but he didn't have the expertise. So we kept a project manager on staff, and it was just Charlie and the project manager, and realized pretty quickly that, hey, which is actually one of the benefits of not growing up, as a builder. He was kind of able to look at this process as more of a consumer, which has some benefits,
Yeah.
some, not all. But one of the small benefits of really coming at this as an outsider was what would make it easier for people that want to build a house? Like, what if I was a customer? What would I want in this process? And one of those positions was someone to help coordinate all the selections and the finishes that come into the house. And
Hmm.
I was very affordable labor at the time. And so
Yeah.
I got, kind of recruited onto the team, but it was the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing. It was a mess at the beginning. So because like I said, we neither of us came from this background at all. So we did have a good project manager, but spice that up with 2008 and the struggles that we all went through in 2008. So our beginning was rough. Not just
To
from a
say the
business,
least.
but interpersonally, it was. I mean, work with your husband. Try one time. It's a little challenging from time to time. So ended up building our way out of this small infill piece of property, which I believe was 11 home sites. And during that time, there was a lot of kind of busted subdivisions for builders that were victims of 2008 or it just
Hmm.
subdivisions that hadn't worked out. So we sort of piggybacked into these other busted subdivisions and were able to build those out. And then we rolled into here we are today. So we did not have the typical storyboards, and
Yeah.
he still can't hang a picture if you really want to know the truth, but at least he knows who to call the hang one. But at least he knows who to call the hang one.
Hey, but you guys have a lot of successes now. So,
Yes.
I mean, kudos to you for bootstrapping that. I mean, holy moly.
Yeah, the thing is when you don't know any better, now we can look back and go like, "Oh my god, what were we thinking?" But then
Yeah.
I don't know that we didn't know what we didn't know, which was everything. So it was, yeah, to do it again that way might be nuts, but here we are.
But just think about how much you've learned in this process
We
and the
have
things to do and the things you should not be doing.
yes, we have learned a lot and we're still learning. I mean, look, we're
Yeah.
still learning. Again, so many builders came up through the trades or, was sort of passed down generation to generation and we didn't have that. So we're still learning, but I think
Yeah.
everybody should still learn. Everybody should still grow as their companies grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to position real quick since you guys had such an amazing start in 2008. As you put it, that perfect timing.
We're known for it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So how does it feel, bringing that to the present day and where the market is at now? There's a lot of conversations about, being in a recession. Where's
Yeah.
the market going to go? Are we going to crash? How does that, relate to you in the new construction, the developer industry? How does that one feel, honestly, just kind of bringing back full circle that this process, right? And additionally, what kind of struggles, setbacks, obstacles are you seeing in the industry that you think are important to really note?
So I don't think that we're in the same situation. 2008 was so profound on every level, from financing to financing on. It was so profound. It was nationally, everybody was having the same problem, whether it was high end home, low end homes. I mean, it was it was catastrophic, really.
Hmm.
And so the situation we're in today, yes, is borrowing money more expensive? Absolutely, it's more expensive. For people as old as me, I still remember interest rates being significantly north of this. So, depending on how old you are, your perspective on this interest rate increase might be different.
Hmm.
But so what I think it was such an artificial the last 3 years, 2.5 years have been so artificially busy and inflated and kind of hair on fire. And it's been so psycho for the last couple of years that I feel like yes, we're slowing down. The new construction side in particular is slowing down a bit, but like any market that has those big influxes and ups and downs, it's due to correct itself at some point. So my thinking is we will just within the next, I don't know,
Hmm.
I don't know how long, but we'll get back to more of a stabilized, much more predictable market. That said, I still don't think, we're still busy on the new construction side. It has slowed down.
Hmm.
The remodeling side, still very busy. And I think we'll continue to be busy because
Yeah.
it's a very different business model than new construction. And one other difference that I have started noticing, because I talk to remodelers pretty regularly from different parts of the country, like we're here in the Midwest in Chicago, what you guys in California are experiencing is very different market wise than what we're experiencing. So a lot of your customers on the remodel side, let's talk about remodeling just for 1 second. I think that there are less risk averse than the Midwest is. Like we're a little bit more of a we're a little bit more traditional here, a little bit more
Mhm.
conservative. So customers maybe don't get out over their skis financially. On the West Coast, we hear that people are leveraging their 401ks or their Apple stock or whatever. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
conservative here fiscally, I think. So I don't know that we're seeing the exact same kind of screeching halt that the coasts are seeing. So I don't think it's a national epidemic as profound as 2008 was. And I do think that people recognize what's happening with the market today, especially with interest rates. I think there's a logical reason for it. We all see the need, and we all understand what the Fed is doing in order to try and regulate inflation, and it makes sense. I think 2008 caught everybody off guard
Mhm.
and just happened to us sort of without this buildup that we've all been watching for the last couple of years. So it's a really, to me, the energy feels very different, and it's a little bit more understood this time around.
Yeah. Well, and I like the perspective you bring about how different areas of the nation can really be experiencing it in a different way, right? And it's
Yeah.
all about perspective. And additionally, how is your local, your state market compared to that nationally? Because on the news, the media, I will say they tend to blow everything up and out of
Yeah.
proportion a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so they do make it seem like this huge, horrendous issue that is being spread nationwide. Now, does that mean we shouldn't be concerned about it? Does that mean we shouldn't continue to keep a pulse on it? We absolutely should continue to
Course.
monitor it, right? But that's a really valid point of what's happening on the Midwest, what's happening on the East Coast can be very different from what's happening on the West Coast, and those
Yeah.
experiences and perspectives, because you're right, the cost of living, right, on the West Coast, I think the average home in California, I want to say is around 800,000. Don't quote me on that, whoever's
Mhm.
listening, but it's up there.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas that is, I think in my hometown in Ohio, it's
Right.
like maybe 200,000. Like
A
it
big
is,
house in Ohio, right?
yeah, it is nowhere near that. So I think really bringing in that perspective of where you are locally compared to the nation is going to be really key when
Mhm.
you're analyzing the market and where you're at. So I do want to touch on remodeling, because I know
yeah.
that is your
That's my
bread
home
and
beach.
your
Yes.
your niche, your bread and butter. I want to talk about what you're seeing. I mean, obviously, given the current market, given what's going on, maybe even since COVID started happening, because we
Yeah.
know everyone since the start of COVID has been DIY, remodel everything.
Yeah.
What have been those patterns you've seen and those habits you've seen in the remodeling industry when it comes to real estate and when it comes to home ownership?
So the main kind of 2 years of COVID, it was almost an overnight switch. It was fascinating, really, how people overnight, all of a sudden, like things like formal dining rooms and formal sitting rooms were so useless when we had 3 kids homeschooling. You had 2 adults trying to office from home, and it was our need for space changed within like a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So there was almost this frenetic, almost panic to get your house suitable for this unknown, and who knew how long it was going to last, who knew how pervasive it would be. So people were really kind of panicked. So there was interior remodeling, that people were using their spaces much differently than we had to in the past. We also, I think there was a healthy fear of this going on, which it did for years. And maybe they needed outdoor spaces. Like all of a sudden pools became the hottest commodity in housing. Like if you had a pool, that was it. And the waiting list for pools like shot up to over like a year and a half, again, overnight.
Yeah.
So it was the effort for all remodelers to try and keep up with this incredible flux of business that happened so quickly. So the other thing that happened to remodeling during COVID was, so people stayed home for 2 years and really didn't spend any money. So suddenly they had money. Not only did they have houses that needed stuff to do, but they had some cash to do it. So that was a nice little,
Yeah.
additional tailwind that we were picking up on. So there was a need, there was financing, and then it exploded. So what's happening now? Yes. Has the phone slowed down ringing? Yeah, it has slowed down a bit. We also are hitting the traditional time of the year where the phone normally slows down a bit, because
Mhm.
people are going into the holidays and they don't really want to traipse people through their house and think about tearing it apart. So this is a pretty traditional time to maybe slow down on new appointments. That said, we're still very busy. The other thing that I'm noticing that I think will still keep remodelers very busy, at least here in our market for the next couple
Mhm.
of years. Again, in the suburbs of Chicago during COVID, you could have, like jelly on your counters and clothes all over your floor, be a closet hoarder, put up for sale sign in your yard, and your house would sell overnight. There'd be a
Yeah.
bidding war on your house. A lot of those houses needed work. So this huge turnover that we had in housing, a lot of those houses will then, in the next year or so, they'll be calling because, hey, our kitchen, we bought this house because we needed to get out of the city and now we're ready to redo the kitchen and stuff. So we almost have a sort of as a built-in, I think, this built-in sort of customer base of people that bought during COVID quickly. They were buying
Mhm.
whatever was available, whether they liked it or not, finishes wise and layout wise. And now we'll have that sort of built-in market as well. So I see a lot of ongoing work kind of as a residual of that COVID craziness that we all saw in the real estate market.
Yeah, that's insane. So what were some of the most common remodels that you would see? So you had mentioned the dining room. Was there any other rooms that you saw that were like, I cannot believe everyone is going out of their way to remodel this area?
Well, I mean, for most remodelers, their bread and butter is kitchen and baths. A
Hmm.
lot of people wanted to do additions because they suddenly were like, I don't have enough room, period. So additions, there was a lot of big, I like to say our at bats, meaning that our potential appointments were just these massive projects where, we are lucky enough to do a lot of big projects, but to have so many of them become opportunities again overnight, that's kind of new. The other thing is, like I said, that formal space, that formal living room and dining room, it became so useless to so many people. So those, and it might have just been simple, like, hey, I need doors on my dining room now so I could stick a desk in here, or um, this living room, I'm going to do built-in homework stations for all the kids and stuff like that. So it could be as little as that, or also mudrooms became really important because when you're home all the time, man, there's a lot of laundry. So you had a tiny kind of mud slash laundry room. A lot of people were rethinking maybe some of their formal spaces. Hey, let's use this space for what we need. So sometimes those formal spaces became craft rooms or laundry rooms or
Hmm.
mud rooms, and I like the rules stopped applying. It didn't matter.
Yeah,
It didn't matter anymore that you can't have Thanksgiving in the dining room because people weren't worried about that. They were worried about like tomorrow. What am I doing with this
right,
house full of people tomorrow? So
right. Well, and I can imagine that thought process comes into fruition because when you're home all the time, you realize, the spaces that you don't have that you either think would be nice to have, or you think I need this if I am going to be stuck in this home for 24/7. Like if I don't have a good mudroom to do all the laundry that is loading up, then I'm going to go insane.
that's exactly. Oh, the last one was exercise spaces because people
Yeah.
couldn't go
Oh,
to
yeah.
gyms anymore. Hey, I need a place for my Peloton. If you could get a Peloton, I need a place for
Yeah.
my treadmill. So a place to put their workout stuff. That was another thing that came up a lot. And then just really just space for the family to hang out.
Right.
And
Right.
and then there's always the kitchen and bath stuff, but that's expected.
I can definitely see that. So I wanna bring in real quick how, the remodeling industry can be applied to real estate professionals. So when we talked previously,
Mhm.
you mentioned how you can partner with real estate professionals to really help a homeowner visualize what a space can become. And I think that's just really awesome insight. And so I would really love if you could just walk us through that process so anyone listening can understand how a partnership with a new construction business and or a remodeling business can really help them when it comes to selling a home, especially as we enter into a more scarce market where there's not as much inventory out there. And so it's just that much more important for you to help your buyers visualize where they could potentially be.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I like to think that realtors need a lot of tools in their toolbox, and one of them, if they have maybe a challenging property that ticks a lot of the boxes, but it isn't quite right for people. I have a couple of broker relationships where they'll call me and they say, "Hey, I'm walking this family through on such and such a time and date. I think we're close here. there does need to be some remodeling. Can you give some ideas about how you could see it, what it might look like, but B, what might it cost, so they know what they're getting
Mhm.
into, whether it's know what to bid on the house, or what to offer on the house, or know that, hey, once we're in the house, we're going to have to expect to spend XYZ more than what we're buying the house for. So I think it helps realtors to become an invaluable resource to their customers, to be able to say, hey, don't worry, I know this isn't exactly what you want, but I have somebody that can help. Let me call this person in. Or if this doesn't suit your need, let's take her to this next house and let's compare the two. Hey, we know both of them need a kitchen remodel. This one needs $100,000 kitchen remodel. This one might only need 50. Or,
Yeah.
so just helping people understand, and exactly what you said, help them visualize what the house could be potentially, and not just that, but then once we can get over that hurdle, what might that cost, and is that still a viable property for this buyer? So that's one aspect of it, on the buyer's end, really having the partner with a realtor to be able to get those customers kind of over the hump. The other one is, if you're a listing agent and the house maybe needs a little zhuzhing.
We'll
Like,
politely say that.
some of them are
Shush.
some of them are a little rough, and there's really basic things we can do to just, it's just bring it up to, so that zhuzhing is just to get people to not notice some of this stuff. Hey,
Mhm.
let's make it a neutral paint color. Let's get rid of the laminate countertops. Just a few things, so these customers can now visualize themselves in your home, instead of walking into the home and immediately think, oh God, there's work to do. I can't think about this. I don't want this house. We got to get them past that. And those can
Yeah.
be very affordable changes, but it really can shorten your time on the market and increase your buyer's pool. But you need to have somebody that they can call, that they can trust, that just will handle this process for either their customer that's listed the house, or then their new buyer. And the important part is for the realtor to feel comfortable with that builder or remodeler. So
Mhm.
nobody wants to refer somebody and then hear later on that it didn't go well. That's miserable. And it makes
Right.
you look bad. So to have that really solid base, that you trust each other. Hey, I've worked with this girl or this gentleman before. They'll take care of you. We have shared goals here. And look, this is great for me as well. It's a great lead
Mhm.
from a realtor, and I want to take care of them because I want them to keep giving me leads. So I'm going to knock it out of the park I mean, not that it wouldn't anyway, but it's important. Like, it's a really important relationship for me. So I'm going to make sure that goes perfectly.
Right. And I can see where that's a really big objection for
Yeah.
that realtors receive on their end, because by nature we're visual creatures. Most of what we take in most of what we take in is visual, right? So when you walk into a home and you see things that immediately turn you off, it's like it's something that you just cannot get past,
For a lot of
typically.
people.
For
That's
a lot
right.
of people,
Yeah.
typically, because you see it and then it's stuck with you.
Mhm.
And so this is where it's really awesome to have a remodeler or a builder come in to be those eyes before the person can have that thought process of, oh
That's
my gosh, this looks however.
Before
You
you
come
kind of lost that buyer forever. Let's
right.
keep them on the hook a little bit and at least get them talking about the potential of the house.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
So, for example, so if you're walking through a home with a realtor and their client, what are some things that you might point out, or maybe even what are some common fixes that you commonly mention to point out, whether that be on the buyer side or the seller side?
So on the seller side, if I have somebody listing a house and that, again, it needs a little love. It's a very basic thing. Neutral paint colors. Make sure you have good countertops. It's odd to say, but often countertops seem more important to buyers than the cabinetry themselves. One thing I like to do, we flipped several houses, and so the feedback that I get, I like to use the powder room as one place to kind of flex your design muscle. So have a little fun in the powder room, tile the floor, put up wallpaper, something, so houses can get a little repetitive or vanilla after a while. So I love for the customers to be able to say, but remember that one house with the brick
Yeah.
tile powder room or something, just one little nugget that will stick with them on the positive side. So the listing one it's very straightforward. We don't want to make it too antiseptic, but we want to make it appealing to as many buyers as we possibly can. Again, to get get it off the market as quickly as possible and open your buyer pool so people don't immediately, as you were referring to, kind of check out mentally and say, I can't even walk through here, can't see myself in here,
Mhm.
whatever the case. When it comes to walking customers through houses that are listed, kitchens and baths are always the concern. So, customers regularly just a lot of time it's cosmetic. Hey, this
Yeah.
kitchen has been touched in 30 years and I don't love it anymore. That's cool. Those are easy and those are easy to just talk about. Hey, you might expect to spend blank on this kitchen based on its size and the kind of finishes that it sounds like you're looking for. Basement finishing comes up a lot. A really common one is houses in the Midwest here. There's a lot of colonials and a lot of
Mhm.
teeny tiny little, I can do it, teeny tiny little laundry rooms. I have a
Ah,
little
yes.
red
Yep.
card there. Teeny tiny little laundry rooms. Like as you come in from the garage into the kitchen, there's this little hallway of a laundry room, and that gets congested and frustrating. So a lot of people are interested in moving the laundry room upstairs.
Mhm.
So if we can find a way to move the laundry room upstairs, it's common. It's common to ask that. And that way they just have a little mud room where they can hang coats up, but then the laundry is upstairs. So still generally kitchen and bath, but
Mhm.
mudroom and laundry room have become a really big kind of architectural feature in new construction. So when you're buying an existing home, we're trying to bring those houses maybe up to more current architectural design. So that's a big one as well, that laundry
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, I read an article a while back that was like whoever decided to put the laundry in either the basement or on the first floor of a
Doesn't
two-floor
do laundry.
home doesn't ever do laundry or like did not design the home well because whose clothes are ever on the first floor?
Well, not only that, at least for us, if you have kids, I always
Yeah.
joke around that the international signal that the kids can play is that the garage door is open. So 90% of the people that come in and out of your house come through that teeny tiny little laundry room,
Yeah.
which is, there's usually dirty socks and unmentionables laying around. That's just no way
Right.
to enter a house. So that stinks. So getting that
Right.
out of your main traffic pattern is a good thing.
Right. And you can definitely see too, where I'm sure in like the older homes. So I remember at one of my aunt's first homes, their laundry was in the basement, but in the hallway, because theirs was a two floor home, I believe. But in their hallways, they had one of those like doors in the wall where like you opened it up and you just like threw your laundry in the door and it like
A
shot
laundry
down
chute.
as a
Yeah.
chute and it like went down to the basement.
Yeah.
We don't really see those as much anymore.
I see
I'm
them. I
sure.
do imagine that there's regularly small children, toys, whatever,
Yes.
or pets that make their way down that.
Oh, I
But
definitely remember throwing Barbies
of
down me and my
course,
cousin, Barbies down the chute.
of course, absolutely. So I do see them still sometimes, and every once in a while, people are like, "These are great," but yeah, we don't put them in new homes anymore. Again, because the laundry is most often upstairs on the second floor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great feature to really put out there that like
Yeah,
that's one where it's not necessarily about the design aspect of the space, but it's more about making the space functional. And I
100.
liked even your tip, speaking on the other side about design of, yeah, you're right. Homes can get a little vanilla when you
Yeah,
start walking through them. They all start to kind of look the same and they all start to run together. And so how can you incorporate a fun element, a fun piece of design in it? And I think the powder room is an awesome space because yeah, it's just usually they're a little closet size. Like they're
yeah,
not huge, they're not big, but like it's such a perfect opportunity for you to make a good impression on a buyer, to have them remember you of like, wow, do you remember that powder room that had like this really crazy wallpaper?
yeah. Even
And
if
what's
they don't
fun,
like it, honestly,
right?
they'll remember it.
Right, exactly. And it's like, how do you make the home stand out? Again, not turning off, like not being a turn off to the client, but how do you make it stand out to them so that when they're reviewing all of the homes in the end, they come back to yours.
Yeah.
So I think those are some really awesome tips.
The last tip that I would say is when I go on appointments for remodeling, one of the first questions that I try and get out of people is like, what's your plan for the house? Do you want to move in 5 years? Are you going out of your toes first? Not to be morbid, but like
Mhm.
what's the plan here? Because my counsel might be different if you want to live here 5 years and under. And you want to do a kitchen remodel, my suggestion might be very different than if you want to be here for 25 years. 5 years
Yeah.
and under, we can still kind of predict trends and we know what should still be popular and in style. 25 years, it's anybody's guess what's going to be in style. So I might have a very different recommendation for that 5-year plan than I would for a 25-year plan.
Yeah, that's a great point. So then I have a question to ask you on that.
Okay.
All of the the white you see
Yes,
everywhere, the white and gray, which is
yes,
everywhere, everywhere.
it
Is
is.
this a trend that has just lasted a fairly long time? Or do you see this as just like a staple way to design a home?
I think white kitchens aren't new. So,
Hmm.
white kitchens have been around forever. So has Carrera marble. The interesting
Yeah.
thing, Carrera marble sort of is that gray and white. It encapsulates that whole gray and white palette that we all love. But the interesting thing about Carrera marble, again, that's been people in Europe have been using them in bakeries and restaurants for decades and decades and decades. But in Europe, you might see coffee stains and wine rings and stuff on that marble, and that's a cool thing there. It shows the life of that countertop. In the U.S., oh no, 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 we don't like
Yeah.
we don't like rings on our marble. That's a no, which is why
No.
quartz is so huge here because it's a more durable product.
Yeah.
That said, I do think white kitchens are ubiquitous. You're right; you see them absolutely everywhere. And I think that they're not going anywhere, but the gray, I think, is already going. I think it's like fashion. Kitchens are a lot like fashion. So we almost got to this very sterile kind of kitchen that was popular for a while. And it's pretty and it's bright and it's light, but it kind of is missing a life in it in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. So there's not and it was everywhere. Everybody had a white kitchen. I think the gray kitchens or the mixed gray and white, I think we'll start seeing much less gray and fixed like cabinetry. You'll still see gray
Hmm.
paint on walls. That's gonna be around for a while. But gray cabinetry and gray, I'm much less. We're already seeing much less gray. Already people are wanting more grain. They want to see the grain in the wood, a little bit of depth of color and a little bit more personality, which I'm all for. Mostly
Yeah.
because I'm in too many white kitchens and I like seeing a little change of
Yeah.
pace. But I
Yeah.
do think, like, if you told me tomorrow, hey, I want to redo my kitchen and I'm selling in 5 years, I would still say do a white kitchen. That said, if it was for you, and you just want to you want what you want, I think people's wants are changing a little bit and we're
Hmm.
wanting a little bit more cozy, little less clinical feeling
Yeah.
kitchen spaces.
Yeah. Do you find yourself having to or needing to, I don't want to say talk people out of what they want, but maybe guide them into a design that has a little more longevity to it and maybe
Well,
not as much trendiness, if
okay,
that's the right
here's the thing.
terminology?
Again, this is the difference. This is a regional thing, right? So in
Okay.
the Midwest, so people are not trendy here. The question I get is
Yeah.
what will last forever? I get the exact opposite question. So
Yeah.
they want to know the timeless finishes where, maybe coastal people or somebody's sitting in a studio in Soho, New York and somewhere in LA, deciding the next trends, but it takes us a long time here in the
Hmm.
conservative Midwest to adopt all of those. So I really get the exact opposite. Like I want to know what will still be popular in 20 years. And the truth is none of us really know that. I do have to talk the bigger thing I feel like I have to kind of convince people about is that 5-year remodel customer because it's difficult to hear, but I usually say to people like you kind of got to remove yourself from the equation. You're kind of remodeling for the next buyer. I mean, of course it's 5 years, you still want to enjoy it, but if you love purple cabinets, it's just not the move. If you're going to move in if you're planning
Yeah.
to sell your house in 5 years, that's a no. So sometimes I have to say like, hey, I know you love purple cabinets, but how about we talk about white cabinets if you
Right.
want to list this house in the near future? So I don't feel like I have to convince them to. Sometimes I need to, yeah, get them a little unstuck. I guess that's the word,
Hmm.
unstuck, because people get they have blinders on. They know what
Hmm.
they know what they're used to. They know what they like, but they know what they like because they haven't looked at anything else yet. So sometimes it's just introducing them to things that they maybe hadn't considered.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just try and encourage them to keep an open mind during the process.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I
also,
think,
my big thing is like, let yourself come through this process. Like, I want to know about you when I walk into your house. It doesn't need to look like some I mean, model houses are lovely, but they don't really tell us anything about the person that lives here.
right. Well, and I can see where that is such a value to, again, real estate professionals, because you're right, people do get very tunnel visioned on
Yes.
what they want. And We hear objections all the time from real estate professionals of, well, the buyers saying, I didn't like the cabinets,
Right.
and therefore I don't want to buy the house.
Right.
And it's like, these are things that you can fix. And so, yeah, how can you speak to them in a way that you're keeping their mind open? And I like how you phrased it. You're not convincing them of anything. You're just introducing them to new ideas. You're introducing them to new topics or new designs or new concepts. And I think that's a really good way for anyone listening really to take away with them, is that you're not necessarily trying to convince someone out of buying or selling a home. It might just be introducing them to maybe things they haven't thought of yet. Maybe introduce them to a home that meets most of their criteria, but you kind of know there might be one little nugget that's going to scare them away. But I think that is also your opportunity to have it already addressed, right? That's where you partner with your remodeler or your builder and say, hey, I've got my partner here, and this is, some different ideas and concepts that they can bring forward to you, because I already know this is something you're gonna discuss with me.
Exactly. And I think the biggest, both new construction and remodeling, I think people get hung up on square footage quite a bit. So people will say, I know when they come in and they want to build a new house, I'm looking for a 3,000 square foot, 4-bedroom home. Okay. Well, 3,000 square feet there could be a lot of wasted space in the 3,000, depending on the plan and your layout. There could be a lot of wasted space. So I always encourage people, don't get too locked into that number, because maybe you don't you can look at it from a design standpoint, really, in remodeling or new construction. Hey, maybe you're not going to have that formal living room, and that's a lot of square footage that now could be towards your kitchen or something like that. So square footage objections we hear a lot. I'm sure the realtors hear it all the time. People think they need this minimum amount of space, but it's really the layout is what they need, not the square footage.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. How do you, if you walk into a home with a real estate professional and their buyer, and they make a comment like that of, well, it's a great home, but the square footage isn't what we want it to be at. What are some, I guess, rebuttals that, how do you objection handle to that one?
Yeah, I would say, I want to understand your room count. Do you need a formal living room? Do you need a formal dining room? Because if you don't, this is a space we can use towards something that's important to you. Hey, you said you were really clear with me that you need a home office. Have you thought about just repurposing this formal living room as a home office? It's not, it's not rocket science. You just got to get people out of, again, think outside the box a tiny bit. And it's an objection we come across a lot with remodeling, because people will call and say, hey, I need an addition. We need more space.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't have the budget for more space. It's expensive. So that is always my first question, is have you considered rearranging your existing space? Have you considered moving your kitchen to this space, or doubling the size of your family room by connecting it to your formal living room, something like that? But again, people get very locked into how they are currently living. So reorganizing their space is mind-blowing sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's so much more affordable, and it might just suit their needs perfectly.
Yeah. Again, it's just introducing them to ideas that, because at the end of the day, your buyer, your seller, your homeowner, the person who wants to remodel, they're not builders, they're not remodelers,
Exactly.
they're not real estate agents. They look at, I do it too. I look at all these different ideas on Pinterest and I'm like, that's great. I don't know how to do it, but I want that.
Exactly.
And that's the thought process people have.
Yes. Well, I work with, doctors and lawyers and stuff, and they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even think of that. I'm like, why should you think of that? I'm not telling you what to do with your heart condition. I couldn't do that, but I'm going to come to you for heart condition stuff. Why don't you come to me for layout and remodeling ideas?
Yeah.
So, I never expect that people should know that stuff, because it took me 15 years to know it. So I wouldn't expect it.
You don't want my Grey's Anatomy education telling you what to do with your medical.
10 Effie stat. I know. I can do it. I can talk the talk.
I can talk the talk, but don't come at me when it's wrong.
As long as Derek is operating on me, whatever he says,
yeah,
I'm totally fine with that.
Yes. Yep. Agreed. Well, listen, I want to take these last couple minutes and just talk about building that partnership, how a real estate professional can build that partnership with either a builder or a remodeler. And so what are some of those different qualities you look for when you are looking to potentially partner with a real estate professional, or maybe what are some qualities that they should look for when they're looking to partner with a builder or a remodeler?
Well, I think the easier kind of question is what should they look for in a builder or a remodeler? And kind of what I was alluding to earlier, I think if you're looking to expand your toolbox, like I was saying, I think it's important that you feel comfortable referring people. I think the worst thing you could do is refer somebody. Not the worst thing you could do, but it's a bummer if you referred
Yeah.
somebody and then that process did not go well for your buyer. So I think if you are looking to expand that toolbox, I would set up appointments with builders. I would set up appointment with some remodelers and get your gut feeling and see how their process works and see how you respond to them just interpersonally. And I'd call them out on a couple of appointments. But I think that, and I don't know that you need to have tons of remodelers and builders, but I think having a couple that you can, have in your back pocket in, new construction, at least where we are, we're in a very, very competitive school district where we do most of our building. So the housing market is very competitive. We also have we have a lot of buyers that have very specific needs as far as the orientation of the house or the layout of the house. And some of it is cultural and some of it is just preferred. So having somebody that you can say to that buyer, look, we've looked at a few houses. None of these seem to be working. Have you considered building? I know a guy that'll really take care of you, or a girl that'll really take care of you. Why don't we just try and meet them and see what you think? And it might slow down their commission process, and I understand that. But in the end, if they can get that buyer into a house, that's the ultimate goal. Same with remodeling. If you feel like you have a trusted partner and you both have that customer's best interest at heart, then it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And to the point on the commission, I know, real estate professionals,
Low pay.
we all want the commission. We all want it really fast. But I do think, one thing that's really important to just point out is, you're in a relationship building industry. And so
Exactly.
it's more important, I would say, to build that relationship and make that high quality impression on those buyers and sellers than to immediately just gung ho get them through the process so the commission can be paid out, right? You want people to be able to also refer you just as you would refer a builder or a remodeler. So it's a relationship process. And so I think that's a good way and a good perspective to think about it is don't rush it, but take the time to really build out those relationships.
Well, and I think the most successful realtors that I have met, they are open to whatever is the best fit for their customer, whether that's a new build, and that new build recognizing that might take even a couple of years by the time you're through the design phase and build to get neat payout as the realtor. But the most successful ones, that's their goal. What's the best for the customer? And if it's a new build, that's what it is. If it's an existing house that we have to remodel, that's what that is. But I think that those brokers that are open to really whatever, they're open to the outcome, whether, again, it's an existing home or a new construction home. Those are the most successful people to me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to have this
Thank you.
conversation with me. It's been a pleasure. I've had so much fun. Oh, wait, I have one more thing I want to ask
Lay it on me.
before we leave. And it's fun. It's straight fun. So I was creeping on your guys' website and and I was looking through all of your team stuff and I pulled you up and there I saw you have listed a hidden talent.
Oh, no. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to London in a couple of weeks, so don't think I'm not walking around my house with my little British accent to myself.
So for anyone who doesn't know,
I can't help myself. If I'm working with somebody from the South or something, it's everything I can do not to just whip out my drawl and start talking in my Southern accent. Yes, I can't. I can't.
Oh my gosh. Jenny can imitate foreign accents. That's her hidden talent. I love it. I wanted to witness it. I found it. I put it as a note, as something I needed to make sure I brought up. And I'm glad I did it before we logged off.
I do. The joke in our house is my kids and I all do it. I don't know how it started. I don't know how it perpetuates, but we all talk in foreign accents all the time. My husband's only really horrible one is like the guy from the Irish Spring commercials, the closest I could come. I don't even, it's a horrible Irish accent. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what country we're all trying to imitate. He ends up sounding like the guy from the Irish Spring commercials.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's an ongoing family joke.
I love it.
But we're all
Oh my
good at it
gosh.
except for my husband.
Except for him. Well,
Yeah, he's really
there has to be someone, right? So
I think it's just something to make fun of him about. But
Right.
yeah.
well, this yeah.
He knows. Oh, we can broadcast it. He knows. How bad.
Perfect. Well, it will be broadcasted for sure. Awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you again so much. Thanks for providing so much value today. I think there's a lot of really good nuggets that everyone's going to be walking away with. And I appreciate your time being with us
Thank
today.
you so much. It was lovely to talk to you.
It was lovely talking to you too.
Thanks for listening to Curb Appeal. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. This podcast is brought to you by Virtuance. Whether you market one listing a year or thousands, Virtuance is your go-to real estate photographer for consistent, magazine-quality images that are scientifically proven to get results. For more episodes of Curb Appeal, please visit virtuance.com/podcast.